President Biden informed Congress yesterday that he will end the nation's COVID-19 emergencies on May the 11th, more than 3 years after they were first declared and more than 3 months from today. The president's announcement comes as House Republicans have introduced bills to end the emergency declarations, like right now. Now, did the White House see the handwriting on the wall and make this move to try and cut them off at the pass? Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is Senator Roger Marshall. He serves on 4 Senate committees, including the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pension. He's a member of the GOP Doctors Caucus. He represents the state of Kansas, and I should note that he's delivered more than 5,000 babies in his time in medicine. Dr. Marshall, welcome back to the program.
Tony, good to be with you. I got to add, I think it was easier to deliver those 5,000 babies than manage the relationships of 100 senators right now.
Or even pass one piece of legislation.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, speaking of that, though, you had success. The country, for the most part, everybody but Washington's returned to normal. In November, 62 senators passed your resolution to end the COVID-19 national state of emergency. Is it overdue for the White House to acknowledge that and move forward and relinquish this power that they've been holding on to?
Well, Tony, they're past overdue, and America knows this. You can't fool Americans all the time. So America's waking up to realize that this president continues to lie. He uses this emergency as an excuse for more mandates to continue giving people their absences from paying off their school loans. So he uses it as power and control, and that's why he's been reluctant to give this up. But certainly 62 senators agreed with me over a month ago. And even, I guess it was 2 or 3 months ago, that Joe Biden himself said on national TV that this emergency was over as well.
That was in September. He declared it was over, but now we have to wait till May for it to be over. But there are reports, and they're not verified yet, but media reports that say that they're going to replace one emergency with another, and the Biden administration is considering declaring a reproductive health care emergency. What do you know about that?
Well, Tony, I think it's more than just a rumor. This is their intentions. And what your listeners need to realize is that this is the most pro-abortion administration in the history of our country. And it is so hard for me to understand them and so hard for your listeners to understand where this administration has come from. You and I believe that life begins at conception, that life is sacred, that we were knit in our mother's womb before we were made. God knew who we were. But this president and his HHS secretary believe that abortion is part of health care, that abortion should be offered with any type of family planning advice as well. So they want to make it as easy as possible to do abortions, including promoting their abortion drugs over the counter. That's where their goal here. Their goal here is to get abortion drugs over the counter eventually.
But Senator Marshall, isn't this a dangerous precedent, not just the subject matter itself, the fact that we're talking about abortion, but that they're taking an issue that's, as you said, part of their political agenda and designating it as we would a natural disaster or other threat like a pandemic. I mean, this begins to misuse the authority, and I think it's going to draw a strong reaction from Americans for the misuse of government power.
Right. So they're taking a Supreme Court decision and using that as to declare a public health emergency in order to promote their pro-abortion agenda. It is just, as the physician in me just says, oh my gosh, this drug that they want to make easier to prescribe, easier to access, has significant complications that go along with it, and it is dangerous in so many ways, including from a healthcare standpoint, but certainly as a political standpoint as well.
So what might be next for them to declare a public health emergency? You know, as you mentioned, this is the result of a Supreme Court decision. But if they don't get the policies they want on, let's say, gun control, that they would declare a public health emergency over gun violence and exercise additional powers there, could they do that?
Well, certainly, Tony, someone should argue, oh, but that's against the Constitution. But this president, this White House over and over again have ignored the Constitution, and they buy themselves, 2 or 3 years going through that process of the laws going from one court to the next as well. So it is very much within the realm of possibility. I would not underestimate them doing anything at this point in time.
So, Senator, how should our viewers, our listeners, be responding to this, that this administration is preparing to move forward with a declaration of a public health emergency over abortion? What should they do?
Well, Tony, I think number one, of course, is to reach out to their own lawmakers, to their Congress members, and to their senators. And then, it's fortunate that a voice like you have in DC is also well heard as well. So they should be encouraging you and your team to go on the Hill as well, using your contacts to start leveraging them to push back on this as well. I would say write a letter to the White House, but I think they would ignore it. So please start with your own legislatures, your own Congress members, your own senators.
Well, we certainly will do that. And I know you've got to get moving. You've got some other commitments here, but I want to ask you another question. What else should we be looking for in the coming days here in Washington?
Yeah, that's a good question. They're attacking us on the air, on the land, and the sea. So they're going to use school lunch programs to promote their transgender issue. In the military, they're going to continue to use everything from a COVID vaccine to transgender issues to push their agenda there. So it's going to be coming out of the White House, all their rules, their regulations, and we sure appreciate you all and your services helping us keep our eye on it. And they can sort of your listeners can go to marshall.senate.gov, but tonyperkins.gov is another good place to help us keep an eye out for some of these things coming across out of the administration as well.
Senator Roger Marshall, always great to talk with you, and so grateful for you and how the Lord's placed you there at our nation's really at the pinnacle of influence and trying to shape the way forward for our nation. So we're grateful for you. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, but Tony, and we look forward to your prayers tomorrow at the Museum of the Bible, another great place to visit when you're in DC.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll be praying, and I'll be praying for you.